Hello mga kawawmat, in this video lesson, we'll discuss identifying parameters for testing in given real-life problems. So first, sagutan muna natin itong short activity. So ito ay magsiserve as recall na rin para sa mga natutunan natin on the previous topics. And then related ito sa i-discuss natin ngayon. So number 1, the blank in a set of data is the sum of the values divided by the total number of values. A. Mean, B. Range, C. Variance, D. Standard deviation. So, pag sinabing the set of data is the sum of all values divided by the total number of values, that is the average or yung mean. Okay? Number 2. The blank is the middle value of data set when it is arranged from smallest to largest. Okay, anong tawag natin doon? That is the median. Okay, number 3. The blank is the item of data that appears most frequently in a set of data. That is, okay, letter B, mode. Next, number 4. The measurement that shows how the data are spread above and below the mean is the blank. So that will be the standard deviation. And mean, median, and mode are example of measures of blank. Variation, position, central tendency, or standard deviation. Measures of central tendency. Okay, so yung mga yan ay related sa i-discuss natin about parameters. A parameter is any numerical quantity that characterizes a given population or some of its aspects. This means that the parameter tell us something about the whole population. So, kung matatandaan natin, di ba, na-discuss na natin, ito sa mga previous topic natin, may video lesson naman tayo about how to compute the measures of parameter and statistic. So, kung babalikan natin yon, related yun dito. Okay? So, the numerical measures of that is calculated from the sample is called statistic. Kung yung tawag natin sa quantity or measurement from the population is parameter, so from sample naman ang tawag natin statistic. Statistic without S to ha. Statistic is no number and variable that depends on the portion of the population. A parameter denotes the true value that would be obtained if a census rather than a sample was undertaken. Examples of parameters are the measures of central tendency. So, these tell us how the data behave on the average basis. For example, the mean, median, and mode, yung nirecall natin kanina, are measures of central tendency that gives us idea about where the data concentrate. So, meanwhile, the standard deviation tell us how the data are spread from the central tendency. So, an example, the distribution is wide or narrow. Such parameters are often very useful in analysis. So, in the normal distribution, there are two parameters that can characterize a distribution. So, the mean and standard deviation. Okay, so maging familiar din tayo sa mga symbol na ginagamit natin. Like for example, paano natin ano yung symbol for sample variance, population variance, kasi magkaiba yon. Okay, so tandaan natin kapag under statistic, so ibig sabihin for sample mean, okay, for sample mean itong ginagamit nating symbol, yung X tapos may bar sa taas. And then for population variance, ang ginagamit naman nating symbol ito. So, yung mu. And for sample variance, so yung S squared. Pero sa population variance, the sigma squared. And for standard deviation, S na lang. And dito sa population standard deviation naman natin, sigma na lang. And for sample proportion, P hat. Okay, ang basa natin dito is P hat. And for population proportion naman, P. Okay? So, tandaan yung mga symbol na ginagamit natin. Kasi ito yung, pag translate natin into symbol mamaya, yung parameters natin. So, alam natin kung anong gagamitin natin. And also, gumagamit din tayo ng equality and inequality symbol. Okay, so pag nabasa natin yung equal to, the same as, not change from, is. So yung symbol na ginagamit natin is yung equal. Okay, equal symbol. And kapag not equal, different from, change from, not the same as. So ang ginagamit naman natin is not equal. Greater than, above, higher than, longer than, bigger than, increase. So that is greater than. So yung greater than na symbol. Pag less than, below, lower than, smaller than, shorter than, decrease, or reduce from. So that is yung symbol natin sa less than. So tandaan yung mga symbol na ginagamit natin. And to identify the parameters to be tested, first, just look for the mean or average. Okay, so kung may mamaya pag nabasa natin sa problem or in a certain situation, yung average and standard deviation, so yung ibig sabihin yun ang gagamitin natin, no? To identify our parameters. And proportion of a population. Number 2, determine the value that pertains to the given parameter, then translate them in symbols for hypothesis testing. Okay, so for number 1, the average height of senior high school students 16 years and older is 158 cm for males. So first, analyze natin ano yung sinabi kanina, anong titingnan natin kapag kukuha tayo ng parameters. Una, look for the mean or average. So ito yun. No? Sa number 1 natin, nakalagay naman the average height. And that is 158 cm. So, ibig sabihin, yung parameter natin is the average height of adult Filipinos. Okay. Wait. Okay, again. So, inedit ko lang. So, the average height of senior high school students is 158 cm. So, makikita naman natin sa problem yung word na average. So, ibig sabihin, ito yung parameter natin. Kapag translate natin into symbol, so since nabanggit yung average, so anong gagamitin nating symbol? Yung pang population, mean. Okay, so ito yung gagamitin nating symbol class. So kapag translate natin into symbol, this is the population mean is equal to 158. Okay, next. A senior high school researcher reported that the average allowance of STEM students is 80 pesos. A sample of 40 students has mean allowance of 110 pesos at level of significance 0.01 tests. It was the claim that the students had allowance of 80 pesos. The standard deviation of the population is 35 pesos. So ano yung parameter natin dito? So that is the average allowance of STEM students is 80 pesos. So, since is yung ginamit natin, so equal yung gagamitin, kagaya sa number 1. And then, average ulit. So, therefore, yung pang-population mean yung gagamitin natin. Okay? Next. According to survey, 63% of the parents are willing to spend extra money for their children's health and education matters. So, what will be our parameter? The percentage or proportion of parents willing to spend extra money in their children's health and education matter. So, nandito, since gumamit ng word, and 63%, so nakalagay, 63% represented for the percentage or proportion. So, since proportion yan, ang gagamitin nating symbol as yung letter P. Okay? Yung P. Okay? And then, convert natin ito into decimal. So, P is equal to 0.63. Next. Okay, by the way, this is for population proportion. No? Yung symbol na to, population proportion ang symbol na yan. Okay, number 4. The television habits of children were observed and found out that the standard deviation is 12.4 hours per week. So, what will be the parameters? Okay, yung parameter natin is the standard deviation of children's television habits hours per week is 12.4. Now, class, since ang nabanggit sa problem ay standard deviation, so yun ang gagamitin nating symbol. Okay, in standard deviation. So, okay, ito yung pang-population standard deviation ang gagamitin nating symbol. So, kapag translate natin ito. Kasi walang nabanggit na average, standard deviation lang ang nandyan. So, itong symbol yung gagamitin natin. Okay, so, ganyan ang pag-identify ng parameters at pag-translate into symbols. So, kung napansin nyo class, from example number 1 to example number 4, lahat equal symbol yung ginamit natin. Pero may encounter din kayo class na gagamit tayo ng mga inequality symbol like less than and greater than, no? So, sa ano na to, wala lang akong naibigay na example. Pero dun sa unang-unang lesson natin, video lesson, meron doon mga halimbawa na may inequality symbol. Okay, test yourself. Choose the best answer to the given questions or statements. So number 1, the numerical measure that describe the certain characteristics of a population is called A. Sample, B. Statistic, C. Parameter, D. Population. Okay, so the answer will be parameter. Number 2, so pwede nyo akong sabayan sumagot class. What are the two common parameters of normal distribution? A. Okay, yung population mean and population standard deviation. B. Okay, population standard deviation and population proportion. C. Population proportion and population mean. And letter D. The sample proportion and the population proportion. The answer is letter A. Okay, the population mean and standard deviation. Number 3. Anna wants to estimate the average shower time of teenagers from the sample of 50 teenagers. She found out that it takes 5 minutes for teenagers to shower. What is the parameter? Letter A, sample of 50 teenagers. B, 50 teenagers in 5 minutes. Letter C, the average shower of teenagers. And D, took 5 minutes for teenagers to shower. Okay, so the answer will be letter C kasi nandiyan yung word na average. Okay, average shower time of teenagers. Next, which of the following is not a parameter? Okay, aling symbol dyan ang hindi parameter? Letter B, kasi yan ay pang summation. Number 5, an educational official wants to estimate the proportion of adults aged 18 and above who had read at least one book during the previous year. A random sample of 1,006 adults aged 18 or older is obtained, and 835 of those adults had read at least one book during this previous year. Determine the parameter in this situation. Okay, so what letter? Letter A, the parameter is 835 adults. Letter B, the parameter is the average of adults aged 18 and above. Letter C, the parameter is the proportion of adults who had read at least one book during the previous year. And letter D, the parameter is the random sample of 1,006 adults 18 and above who had read a book in the previous year. So the answer is letter C. So, is the proportion of adults who had read at least one book during the previous year.
Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button para updated kayo for more video tutorial. This is your guide in learning your math lesson, your Wow Math channel.